Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling, magic Monday. It's that day of the week where we ignite the sparks that help us get through the rest of the week and ignite the activities that we're going to be doing, ignite the projects, get them all kick-started and everything else. And it has been a very busy day. And thankfully, I was very industrious last week and got my planner ready for this week last week. So I didn't have to worry about any of that today, for which I am extremely grateful, because it has been a packed, busy day. It has, I've only just kind of stopped working recently. Well, put it this way, everything on my to-do list is now done. So I'm starting tomorrow with a clean slate. All the project, all the stuff I had coming in from clients is done. It's been a wild day. The chat today was busy. It was very, very steady, and every now and again you'll get several chats coming. You'll get a couple of chats coming in at once, and then you get them sorted out, and then it would even out again, and then it would start getting busy again. And so it was kind of like that most of the day. So it was good because it kept me busy, but not out of mischief. Never too busy to stay out of mischief. Never. I also submitted all of my reports that I had to submit today, because Monday is my reporting day for the eating plan that I am on. And so today I was sending it in for the first 4 weeks, and they're working on a new eating plan for me for the next 4 weeks, because you get 3 different eating plans designed to help you burn off the excess, release excess weight for other people's use. That's the way I look at it. And the reason I say that I'm releasing excess weight for people who need it is because the universe works in checks and balances. If you subtract over here, it has to be added somewhere else. And so by using the term release for weight, we are releasing the weight. It means we are done. Because if you use the term lose weight or lost weight, the brain goes, we have lost something. We have to go find it. And that's why a lot of eating plans fail. So we use an eating plan. It's a healthy eating plan. I really much enjoy it. Although I've told them for the next 4 weeks, I really don't want to do a lot of cooking, because at this time of the year, my appetite is not the greatest. When it's too hot, I typically don't eat a lot. But I do like a lot of smoothies. And she gave me the eating plan, and I said, what I would do is I'll pull out the Vitamix and I'll throw most of the vegetables and the fruits that were allotted for that day into the Vitamix with the protein powder, mix it all up, and it would make enough for 2 batches, one in the morning and one in the evening, which would quite often end up being dinner. So she's now looking at that to help plan the next one. And then she says, any meals you don't want? I says, yeah, any that require cooking. When you're in an RV, it's just too hot. Yes, I have the air fryer. I have the Instant Pot, and I don't mind using the Instant Pot in the morning for oatmeal. Because 2 or 3 mornings a week I have oatmeal, 4 mornings a week. And I don't mind that because it's not on for very long, and it's in the coolest part of the day, even though it's 90 degrees outside when we go for a walk. At 6 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, it's 90 degrees when we go out for a walk. But inside the RV, it's at the coolest part of the day. So I don't mind having the Instant Pot on then for a short amount of time, which is what's needed for oatmeal. Whereas if I'm pressure cooking meats and other things, I've got to usually sear the meat before we put it into the cooker, then put it in the cooker, and that is just hot, sweaty work, and I ain't doing that. And yes, I have my George Foreman grill, but that also puts out a lot of heat as well. Sorry. Little tip for the RV, the light goes out, whack it. It usually turns it back on. Somebody told me that once, and I looked at them weird, and then one of my lights went out when they were both on, and so I whacked it. What do I do? So I whacked it, and it worked. I've been doing it ever since. Speaking of which, my dad, and I love my dad, he sends me this email, and he goes, you've been sitting for a while in your RV. It hasn't been running. Have you been doing this? And he gives me like this list of maintenance things for the vehicle. And I says, yeah, I'm fully aware that these all need to be done, and I'm booking on a mobile service to come in like August and get the engine overhauled and all the fluids replaced. And I said, this year the tires need to be replaced anyway, so we'll be getting those done before we hit the road and go anywhere. And he was concerned about the pressure of the RV sitting on top of the tires for such a long time without moving. I said, not a problem. I said, I've got the jacks down so the wheels are a lot of pressure's taken off the wheels. But yeah, totally get that. So yeah, we'll be getting more wheels replaced at some point as well. So August is going to be seeing a lot of activity done on Sparkles for maintenance and getting things up and running again. Most of the RV repair guys are on vacation at this time. A lot of them aren't taking appointments till late August, early September. So we're going to get booked in for all of that so we can get Sparkles up and running. And then remember to turn it on a weekly basis for about 15 to 20 minutes and let it run because it helps keep the battery charged. And he was talking to me about a battery tricker. And I says, yeah, I used to have one of those. It was a solar panel on top of the AC unit. So now I have to look at either replacing the solar panel that used to be on top of the old AC unit and seeing if I can hook that up really easily so that it starts trickling into the main battery again, which is the engine battery, or do I have to actually buy a trickler that you have to plug in and you got to worry about extension cords and all that sort of stuff. We had round 2 of the storms last night, so we went out for our walk. We could see the thunder and lightning off over to the east and got back, and around 10 o'clock it hit. 60-mile-an-hour winds again, a lot of rain again, and it only lasted, I think it was like 30 to 45 minutes it lasted, which was a lot less than the night before. I haven't been for a drive around the resort, but saw a lot more debris down on the roads and everything else. So there's been probably a lot of cleanup going on today in the resort. I haven't had a chance to go for a drive around or anything to look at what's been done. But we did lose power last night. So we're standing here, and the light, and like this light was stayed on, a couple of my ceiling lights stayed on, but all of a sudden the AC stopped. And I'm like, what the heck? Why is the AC turned off? Is the AC broken? Oh crap, the AC is broken. And I'm thinking the AC is broken. And I'm looking around and I'm going, and I looked up at the microwave and it had no lights on it. Oh, have I lost power? So I came over to the window, opened the curtains here and looked out because I can see the surge protector that's on the power box behind us. And it was flashing between, it was trying to get, you could see it, the lights flashing on it like it was trying to find the power and everything. I said, oh, great, power's gone out. So I turned off all the lights except for one. And of course, rain's pouring down at this time. And I've got the flashlight out. I'm checking the roof for leaks. Is there any new leaks coming in? So whenever it gets heavy rain, I'm always walking around with the flashlight looking at the ceiling. I'm like looking at the ceiling. I'm going, I need to figure out how to vacuum my ceiling. There's lots of little dusty things because it's got like a carpet. The ceiling's carpeted. I've never thought of vacuuming it before. And I'm like looking at it going, it looks like it needs a vacuum. Now I've got to figure out how to do that. So now I have to figure out how to vacuum my ceiling. The weirdest things that come up at the strangest times. And with the rain and everything else, I noticed that Zeffy's got this blanket which has a nylons on one side and like a sheep thingy on the other side, and I usually scrunch it up in the corner of the couch and bury her treats in it. Well, I went to do that last night with her treats and noticed it was wet, and I'm like, or damp, and I thought, why is this damp? And I'm like feeling around the window frame, like last time when I had the leak suddenly start up through there, it was all dry. I'm like, felt the couch underneath, it was slightly damp, and I'm like, well, this isn't good. As this window started leaking again. So when the rains came last night, I put a towel down on the couch and then got my big foot basin out and stuck that on the couch there. Came out this morning, there's about an inch of water in it. And one of the, so on each side, let's see if I can show you. So on each side of the window, we've got these carpet pieces here on each frame. Well, the one that is closest to the driver's seat, so the inside one of those was soaking wet because it was a completely different color to the one on the other side, which, is there something floating around here? I don't know, I'm seeing like sparkles on the screen. And so one side was bone dry, the other side was wet, and the valance that goes across the top of the window was also damp. Blind, completely dry, just that one side piece, and the valance was wet. And then I noticed a wet spot further along on the top of the slide there. And so I'm sort of like, okay, got to get up there and figure out what's going on. So there's going to be a trip. I have to do a trip to my storage unit because I've got to get a couple of textbooks that I need for next week, which I have at the storage unit because they're such big books. It's sort of like, yeah, they're going to stay in storage unless needed. And I'm going to see about bringing my ladder back with me too, so I can get up and do a closer inspection of the slide, especially the roof of the slide, and make sure that the awning that is on the slide is working properly, that there's no holes in it, and then try and figure out if we can see anything as to where the water may be coming in along the slide. And that's going to be fun since the awning goes the whole length of the slide. So we're just going to have to have a look and see what we can see. But it only happens when the rain's coming from the east. Because the first time it happened, the rain had come in from the east as well, because we were pretty protected by next door. So maybe it's somehow getting up underneath the awning. I don't know. But we're going to have to inspect that anyway. But yeah, it's been a wild day today. Been kept very busy. And of course, I finished work and got stuck into work for one of my other clients that I do some VA work for. I usually do work for her on Monday mornings, and then I'm on the chat in the afternoons. But because one of our people is away on vacation this week, I'm working the mornings almost to the same time that I usually finish. And I've switched the hours on the days that I work for my other client to the afternoon. So when I finish on the help desk, I'm then into the work for her. So I got all of that done and caught up. Went and had to lay down on the bed. Didn't really sleep. For some reason my phone just started going berserk with text messages and Facebook messages and other dings and dongs and phone calls from spam numbers that I thought I had blocked. And I'm sort of like, I'm supposed to be laying here just enjoying the peace and the quiet, and it was just Zeffie and I time. She's laying there with her head on my pillow, and so we're just looking at each other, and I'm just talking to her, and my phone's going ding, dang, dong, and making all these other noises and everything else. And I'm like, well, so much for quiet time. But I am reading a fictional book, like a physical book, Murder in the Book Club, because I need that for this Saturday, which is our book club meeting, our mystery book club meeting. It's turning into quite a good thing, and there's a few humorous parts in there. But man, these women in this book club are really catty. They're little bitches. I mean, they just go after each other. They pretend all to be friends when they're all together. But man, talk about turn on each other and get snarky and bitchy, and makes for a very interesting thing. And now the murder victim, we've just met the ex-husband, and and he's told his story as to why he walked out on her, and she of course has told her second husband, she told him a completely different story about why she left him. But then she had this persona that she always wanted to project, and the fact that she had an affair, which is why the husband walked out on her, that is not part of her persona, no, that she projects. So she makes it that she was the victim and had an alcoholic husband. And I'm sort of like, oh my gosh, this is going to be fun. But we're on like chapter 6 or something, so it's kind of cool. But each chapter heading has the date and the time, so you know when this is happening, and you find out when the body was discovered, and then you go back to find out when the book group was last together and what had happened at that book group. And I was sort of like, man, my book group's nothing like this one. Thank goodness, because they're really nice people that are in my one. I enjoy talking with them, and all different walks of life, and guys and girls. It's a great group. But this one in this book, it's sort of like, man, I am so glad I'm not part of that. And it all takes place in England. In Cambridgeshire, which is close to where my ancestors come from. They came from about 30 or 40 minutes up the road in Warboys, which was in Huntingdonshire and got absorbed into Cambridge. So at some point in time, not when my ancestors lived there though, it was after they had left. So it's kind of interesting reading the story about the area that's close to where my ancestors came from, because now I can kind of like look at a map and see where everything is in relation to each other and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, it's shaping up to be a good book, so I'm enjoying this. The prologue I was a little worried about, because it was almost like somebody else had written the prologue, and if the author had written it, they'd just like thrown it together and like no proofreading or anything, because it was like these incomplete sentences. And I was like, if the book's going to be like this, I ain't reading it no further. Also got an introductory email from the instructor that I've got next week on my genealogy class, and we're doing the intermediate class next week. Last year we did the beginner class, so this year I get to do the intermediate class, and she wanted you to reply and tell her about yourself and your experience with genealogy and things, and just to get to know, so she could get to know you. And so I wrote back my little bio email for that and sent that off to her, and it's just so she gets to know some of the people that, because we don't get to have those in-classroom discussions, that before thing. We get a little time before things, but usually I notice that when I'm in those is people are asking questions about homework that was assigned the night before and that sort of thing before we get started. So there's no real kind of networking and getting to know people and that sort of stuff. So this is her way of saying, hi, welcome to the class. Looking forward to meeting you. Here, please click here to go see my bio. Would love to learn some more about you. So please, feel free to reply to this email and tell me about yourself. So I did. So I got that out of the way as well because I've been trying to do that. And on Friday I went via Office Max and picked up because they had sent the course manual they had sent to us, and it was like 200 and something pages. And I'm like, well, for a start, I don't have anywhere to set up my printer. Even though it's meant to be small portable, it takes up a bit of space, and I've got no outlets close to the computer for it or anything like that. And it's over 200 pages. I want it double-sided, and I just sent it off and got it printed along with another booklet that they send us as well that has information in there. Like it has the course list, it has everybody's contact information in there. So that's kind of fun that you get everybody who's attending, all the instructors, you get all of their contact information, email addresses, names, who they're looking for, which is actually interesting because my second great-grandfather has an unusual last name. And there's different ways of spelling his last name. So I put in the one that we've been researched. I just picked one of them. And it was Brazier. And there's somebody in there who is looking the same name, but they spelled it one of the alternative spelling ways. So I'm curious. And we're in different classes. So I'm keen to find this person and hook up with them and say, hey, I noticed that you're researching this name. I'm also researching that name as well, but we've got different variants of spelling depending which documentation we look at. And I'm actually having a lot of trouble finding information on my second great-grandfather, especially on the English side of things. On the New Zealand side, I can find all the stuff. I've got the coroner's report, his death certificate, the coroner's report, have all of that. But finding information about where he came from in England and his birth certificate and who his parents were. In one report, it says his mother was named this, and in another report, it's something different. So it's trying to find who was his parents? Where did he come from? So maybe we can collaborate together. I don't know. So I'm already looking forward to that and hopefully solving a mystery, because our tree goes back on that part of the family, only goes back to him, and then I've got nothing beyond him. In fact, I hooked up with somebody years ago, and this is before a lot of records were online, and they couldn't find anything on him either. So I was like, who is this mystery man? So it's another mystery in the family that we've got to solve. So maybe this person, because they spelled it Brasier, and so maybe. And sometimes you put a Y instead of an I. And in some spelling, there's an I, a Y or an I. It's an S or a Z. So depending what records you're looking at, who's taking, a lot of the stuff back when census were done, when parish records were done, a lot of the times it was the person who was writing the information and how they heard the name and how they spelt it on the records. So in some ones it's Brasyer, Brasier, Bazyer, Bazier, and even we've had the I and the Y before the Z and the S. So it's Brai or Y, S or Z, ER. So yeah, it's very interesting, the different variations that you can get. And it's like my mother-in-law's maiden name is very much the same thing. There's about 9 different, I think we've got like about 9 or 10 different spellings that we have to look up every time we go and look for anything in the records, because it depends who heard it and who wrote it out and how they spelled it, unless it was the person themselves spelling the name out for the person. The person writing was the one who would put the spelling there, unless they were told exactly how to spell the name. And this is common throughout a lot of, especially census records. Excuse me, there was one I was looking for the other day, and the spelling was a little different, and I knew how it was pronounced, and I couldn't find them on the 1940 census, and they happened to come up with a completely different spelling. Same pronunciation, completely different spelling. It's like, got it. So sometimes you find the variations on the spellings, and so it's being go and put the also known as. So on my mother-in-law's side of the family for her maiden name, everybody that has that last name has got the also known as and all the different variations of the spelling. And of course, one of the guys, his first name was Peter, but he was German, so it was spelled with an I in there, with P-E-I. Hang on. P-E-T-I-E-R. There's an I in there somewhere in the Peter. So sometimes it was spelled P-E-T-E-R, and sometimes it had an I in there to go next to one of the E's. That's all in there. And so then, of course, we had to do the Peter, as everybody knows it, with the different variations of spellings. And then we had to go into another one with the Peter spelled with the I in there, along with all the different variations. So he's got like about 20-something known as on his profile, which means that when you're looking at the known as, the system will look at not just the name, but also all the known as as well. It's a lot of known as's. Anyway, so genealogy can be a lot of fun in that regard when it comes to finding ancestors with unusual last names and then trying to figure out how they spelt it. And the person who was taking the record, how did they spell it, or did the person reporting it spell the name for them? You never know. It opens a whole can of worms. So it's going to be an interesting week coming up. I'm excited. I've got my manuals already. I just got to go over to the lockup unit and pick up a couple of books, because they're like they're reference books that you use every now and again, especially when you're report writing, and because they have in there the actually I think that one's over there. It's the big one I need. I have the little Association of Professional Genealogists has a book that's a board certified standards that we use to help us prove the things, and there's different standards in there for how you prove what they consider proof for the different things. And it's just a little thin book, and that one's sitting over there. But then there's a bigger book that shows you how to write out all the different sources for the different types of records and everything else, and that one's over in my lockup, because I don't need that all the time. But when I'm researching records and getting ready to write reports, then yes, I do need it, because formats are different based on what type of records you're giving the source information for. And this one gives a lot of really good examples and everything else. So that's one of the manuals we're going to be referring to next week. So I want to go grab that out of the lockup and bring it back over here. And I have some other stuff to take over there as well. So that's all systems go. But anyway, I'm out of here. I've got a DOG that wants to go for a WALK. I have no idea if we have rain in the forecast for tonight, because the last 2 nights there was no rain in the forecast. And again, the rain started, and 10 minutes after the rain started, we got the emergency notifications through that there was severe thunderstorm warnings. It's like these thunderstorms have caught everybody off guard. So we'll just be ready for it. It's as simple as that. We'll just be ready for it. And fortunately, the house batteries are continually being charged. When the power is on, the house batteries are constantly being charged. So that's how we were able to have lights last night while we had the lights on, because the ones that I was using are also the ones that run off the house batteries if the power's out. The only problem is the ACs do not. I need the generator for that, and the generator backs up fumes into the RV, so we can't use the generator. Plus, they also have a no generators allowed to be on ban here in the campground as well. So even if I could use the generator, I couldn't, because they're not allowed to be used. I'm like, what is the difference between starting a generator and starting an engine? They sound about the same. And yet you'll find with us, no generators allowed on at night. That was it. So, but apparently they have the ballroom open when there are severe thunderstorm warnings. For anybody who feels unsafe in their house, they can go over and sit and join other people there in the ballroom if they just feel like they're not safe in their place. So that's kind of cool to know. And I'm like, but what do I do with the dog? Because it's in an area where you're not allowed to take your dogs. And I ain't leaving her behind in a room where there's no AC. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. Not in this lifetime. Anyway, I'm out of here. Have a super fantastic sparkling evening. I got a DOG that wants to go for a WALK, and she's busy looking out the window. We still have a little bit of daylight. Oh, I was looking at raincoats for her. That will be a fun activity when I finally find one that I like, that look good, that she might wear. looking at these things and I'm looking at the photographs of the dogs wearing these raincoat things, and these poor dogs are like, what the hell have you done to me? Type of looks on their faces. Like, yeah, they had was it a border collie? It was a border collie. They put this raincoat on, and the thing's like walking around trying to figure this thing out, and they didn't have the hood up because the hood pins their ears down, and I know Zephyr would hate that. She would absolutely hate it. But I want one that either has a harness built into it, because I really don't want to have the harness on her and then put the raincoat on top, because I feel that'll be too much heat. But some of them are like loose poncho things that you can just sort of like drape over their body, and it will stay in place, but it's got a lot of airflow through there. And I want ones with reflector eyes tape on them, because most of the time when it's raining and we're out walking, it's at night. So I want her to be seen. And of course I have my reflective vest on as well. But anyway, go have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow for Tune Up Tuesday. What tunes are you going to rock out to tomorrow? Hey, Conera.